My name is Jason Wong. I'm a dentist and I'm Chief Dental Officer for England. The British Dental Conference Dentistry Show, I will be covering the sort of most talked about topics that's affecting dentistry, what may be coming along next. So in terms of contract reform, by that time we would have rolled out the first phase of the reforms, and also really updating on other aspects in terms of clinical policy updates, things affecting the workforce. We're going to be talking about both well-being of the workforce as well as what the regulatory aspects of the workforce should become and how we're going to move that along, as well as also looking at the increased use of skill mix and encouraging that within the profession. Fully appreciating the profession in terms of the time it's taken for reform, although I would point out that this set of reforms that we're bringing through now is the biggest change and biggest set of reforms since 2006. It's probably the second significant reform that we have brought through in the last 4 years. It isn't the end point, and we've always been very clear. The 10-year health plan also makes that point, in that there is a lot of work at seeing what the next phase of the reform will be. The government commitment has been that we will have this for this Parliament. So the commitment is that fundamental reform will be rolled out before the end of this Parliament, and that's the political promise, if you like. From our side, we've been working actually in parallel with this set of reforms, is seeing exactly how that next set of reforms can be brought in that fundamentally changes the relationship, if you like, between the NHS and the profession. There's a risk with having a big bang and everything changing suddenly. There's also a risk because of previous disappointments over, the previous however many years, means that people lose faith in terms of what we're going to bring forwards. So I think that it's balancing the two and seeing where the work can best sort of benefit both patients and profession. As I said, I'm quite open that over the last 2-3 years, our work has not been one of how do we revolutionise everything, but actually how do we make sure that what budget there is there for dentistry is spent on those with the greatest need and the least able to access that care. I think in terms of the most important aspect of shaping dental care, I think would be how we're meeting the needs of the population. So it is good that we have managed to, I think, create a safety net for urgent care. And then the next is really about access for care, and then how you prioritise those with the greatest need, so that we can provide the best care to as many people as we can. I think those are probably the most important issues. In terms of workforce development, I think we're going through a phase now where the workforce also needs to get used to slightly new ways of working, maybe with more team members, and also I think we've got an eye on education and training as well. I think overall, in terms of the messages I want people to take away, actually one of positivity. I think the most press issues comes around dentistry is always on the negativity, but actually there's some really good stuff going on, and there are parts of the profession that's actually doing quite well. Notwithstanding, actually access to NHS dental care has been one of the challenges, but there's lots going on. And actually, also I think to the younger colleagues, would like them to take away about what a great profession that they've joined, and how trying to shape how the policies might actually improve things both for their patients, but as well for them. In terms of access and how we've managed to move things forward in the last few years. Initially, it was one of trying to recover actually from the pandemic. I think the sector was hit the worst out of all healthcare sectors. And once we got to that point, most of the work that we've been doing in the last probably 2 to 3 years is making sure that what care is delivered those in the greatest need. and prioritising within that space. And part of that has been initially prioritisation of urgent care. So making sure that we don't live in a society where people have to resort to doing things themselves. And so it's quite good, although there may still be stories that come out. Actually, we do feel that we've created a safety net right now with the increased commissioning of urgent care that we've put in across the country. And then next is really looking at other priority groups. Children has always been a priority group for the government, for the last few governments actually, and access figures for children are now returning back to, well, it's pretty much at pre-pandemic levels. And in terms of access to children for routine care, that's an area that's doing actually pretty well. So what we need to do now is actually build on that and move things forwards. The role of the wider dental team is going to be absolutely crucial to how we progress. I have always made the point that dentistry, really since the mid-90s, have chosen dental students with straight A grades, and whether that cohort of students and then eventually graduates are the best place to provide care in the community, for the same community, for the rest of their careers. And one of the things that we have to think about is actually, do we still have a model where, according to the NHS statistics, 95% of the work is actually carried out by a dentist rather than dental therapists or dental hygienists? So what we need to do is to think about what kind of balance we have, and it's absolutely crucial that actually where they can delegate work, that dentists actually delegate to other members of the team. Every young dentist I speak to, when I ask them what they want, they say they want to progress. And you can't really progress if you're spending 95% of your time doing some really basic work. What you should be doing, yes, you can still do quite a bit of that, but look to delegating that to other members of the team, and that will allow you to progress onto other specialisms, other areas of interest. So I think in terms of how digital will impact on how we progress in the future, in the wider healthcare sector, it is seen as absolutely instrumental, and the government is absolutely committed to the idea of having a single patient record and having AI assisted healthcare. In dentistry, I think it's absolutely huge as well. I think it will have a very significant impact. There are already areas where people are using it, whether it's ambient voice technology in terms of record keeping, whether it's front of house, front desk, using technology there. Lots that can be used in terms of diagnostics, both in terms of helping with the diagnostics, but actually explaining to the patient. And where the NHS is currently truly analogue is the integration of dental practices into the central NHS spine, or indeed the health and social care network. And I think it would be really good, and I'm very much wanting to see whether there's possibility of escalating that work. It's part of the 10-year health plan commitment, but I'd really like to see that at the front end of it. There is patient safety implications. I still think that having a dentist ask the patient what medication they're on is fraught with potential inaccuracies, and that's what we all rely on, because some people do turn up with a prescription, which is helpful, but others describe what the tablet looks, and that is less helpful. And actually we're still relying on that, almost, but it's sort of barely believable. And then e-prescribing. I also think, we hit a problem during the pandemic in terms of getting prescriptions out. I mean, we only prescribe about 5 million prescriptions, still 5 million pieces of paper. Doesn't allow us to audit what people are doing, so it's quite an important part. And then also e-referrals, in terms of being able to just make a referral from an NHS practice to an NHS site. The fact that we're paying third-party companies in which to do that just doesn't seem to be very sensible in terms of having the tech. So all those things, plus the patient journey, I think is really, really important. And for the workforce, I also think that the ability for some of the mundane tasks to be carried out by artificial intelligence, meaning that the dental team members, and especially the dental nurses, can then expand what they do. And I think that's pretty important as well. For dentists that are working in the front line, over the next 5 years, I think we will see progression use of technology. And in fact, you know, it's been on a rather slower burn, and I do wonder whether it'll accelerate in terms of digital scanning, 3D printing, those kind of digital innovations, I think will be increasing. I think that people in the front line will also hopefully get used to a more sort of broader team members way of working as we progress. I mean, I can't make an absolute prediction, but that is what we'd like to see. And then I'd also like to see the fact that in fact today we've announced an increase in the dental workforce with 50 UK dental graduate places and some ramping up of international graduates that is down the line. So hopefully the work will be spread more evenly, so that people don't feel the pressure, if you like, to be able to take on you know, more patients based on the fact that actually there are more people to do the work. I think that events like the British Dental Conference and the Dentistry show has the ability of pulling people from very different backgrounds to attend in one place, and I think it's really important for people to get together rather than work predominantly in silos. One of the things that the new set of reforms we brought in is to encourage peer review, so that people do communicate. People like to tend to stay within their practice confines. I'd also like to encourage communities of practice, which is a lot more prominent in the rest of healthcare than it is in dentistry. So I think that an event like this brings different people around. For me personally, going to speak at an event like this is actually reaching a different audience to the ones that I normally see throughout the year. So I invariably always will see people who work in the front line. Actually, really quite nice. Usually people that my path had crossed in the last 20, 30 years who come in, and actually they will have a perspective on things that may not have been apparent before, and actually having these conversations, making sure we reached all parts. And I think that an event that improves people sort of getting together so that people know what's going on is actually quite positive. And I think as we've moved towards actually a more digital world, one of the things is people have gotten into a lifestyle where things come into the home, and having an event where people actually turn up and attend together, I think is quite good. Networking is definitely part of the opportunities, both in terms of the presentation and being and answering questions afterwards, but also with other stakeholders in the place. And I always take the opportunity at the event to make sure that we catch up with people sort of around in the evenings as well. So I normally, for the Birmingham one, actually call in on the majority of the fellows that I supervised a few years back when I was back in the Midlands, and they almost can set the clock that I'll be wanting to meet up with them just either the night before or the night after I speak.